IKONINI. So on Tuesday kulikuwa na like a few very interesting tweets zile zilibaki zimego out. Wacha tuanze na Nelson Havi. Nelson Havi alisema the Supreme Court is the court of last mistake. Alafu pia kuna vile Ahmed Nasir alikuwa ametweet mara kadhaa. Alisema now right now is the right time to disband the Supreme Court of Kenya. Tomorrow will be too late. Alafu akaandika jurispresa has ruined our courts. Alafu pia alikuwa na told you Supreme Court of Kenya overturns the Court of Appeal judgment on the 2023 finance bill blah blah blah, giving it a clean bill of health. So hii kitu ilifanya nikabaki nimejua kitu moja juu kama haujui, wacha nikusome headline ya Nation. Ilikuwa win for Treasury, Ruto as Supreme Court overturns decision quashing the Finance Act 2023. And don't forget pia, I think ni early this week kama ilikuwa late last week, bado Court of Appeal pia ilikuwa imefind that the Finance Act was constitutional, and all these ones had been found unconstitutional by the High Court. So kwa umekuwa ukiwatch IKONINI for some time, umekuwa ukicheki nikisema kuwa according to mimi, the High Court does its job, but then the Supreme Nini inakuwaga the Court of Appeal na the Supreme Court hizo waga zinafanya what the executive wants. And one example I can give you of course ni ile story ya a few years back during time ya Uhuru. Kuna vile msee fulani anaitwa Waluke, alikuwa Sirisia MP John Waluke, alikuwa found guilty of corruption na akakuwa fined 2 billion shillings, alafu akapatiwa a 67-year jail term. I remember this made headlines kabisa your time because this was unheard of. Najua like msee kupatikana guilty of corruption alafu kupatiwa 67 years, sisi wote tulikuwa like damn, this has actually happened. And this is one of the things pia ilifanyaga na feel like Uhuru he tried, hakufanya nini kila kitu iko tunataka, but at least during his time people used to be found guilty of corruption. Then after they were found guilty of corruption, kuna vile vitu zikuwa zina end up zikihappen baadaye where the higher courts finds them innocent, but at least they were being found guilty. But then this Waluke guy, of course, as soon as alipatikana iko guilty, what did he do? Alienda up amejoin UDA. Alafu after kujoin UDA, when you support Ruto, what happens? You're found ukiwa mweupe kama pamba. But let's go back in time kidogo.
Zinazotufikia katika chumba chetu cha habari kwa hivi sasa, mtazamaji, ni kwamba mahakama kuu imetupilia mbali rufaa ya mbunge wa Sirisia John Waluke. Na mtazamaji, hii ni kumaanisha kwamba Waluke sasa atatakiwa kutumikia kifungo cha miaka 67 jela aliyopewa na mahakama ya chini. Kulingana na mahakama ni kwamba Jaji Esther Maina wa mahakama kuu alisema kwamba upande wa mashtaka ulitoa ushahidi wa kutosha na kuthibitisha kesi dhidi ya Waluke na Grace Wahungu, na kwamba rufaa yake haikuwa na msingi wowote. Kurudia tu ni kwamba mahakama kuu
so hiyo ndio kitu happen. So this was the report back, ilikuwa ni October ya 2022. This was like 2 weeks into Ruto's rule. And what this Waluke guy I think alifikiria ni alibaki amecheki like what had happened with Didmas Barasa, where Didmas alienda hapa ametandika mtu risasi, alafu after kutandika mtu risasi, of course as soon as Ruto won he was back in the country because he knows that Ruto protects his people, najua. So Ruto protect watu wake, like kuna mse moja pia naitwa sijui ni Kang'ombe ama Kagombe whatever, huwa alibaki ametandika pia mtu risasi majuzi, alafu Ruto bado akabaki amemprotect. So we have that side, but as you can see hiyo ilikuwa the High Court. So the High Court in Kenya imekuwa ikidu some work, but as soon as hizi vitu zinaenda kwa the Court of Appeal ama the what, these people are found to be innocent. Inakuwaga like mweupe kama pamba. That's what I can say. And sasa nataka kutake back in time kabisa. Nimekuonyesha like part of those things. And even before we go back in time, let's go back to January this year. This ilikuwa ni January 22nd, 2024. Kulikuwa na hii headline: President Ruto meets CJ Martha Koome to end executive judiciary row ama row, depending on how you call it. And the question is, kwa nini judiciary and executives go in a beef? Kunafaa kuwa tu na one thing, and that's following the constitution. What does the constitution say? But walibaki wamekaa chini and then wakadiscuss. And you know what happens in such situations. In African governments, the executive is always the most important arm. So whatever the executive wants is what the executive is going to get. So we knew how that would happen, and after that umecheki kesi za against wase wa Ruto zimekuwa zikirushwa and tunaweza go back in time kidogo. Of course tutabonga juu ya attempted rape case ya Linturi ilirushwa nje, mada case ya Didmas Barasa ikarushwa nje, nani tena, mada case ya Aisha Jumwa ikarushwa nje. Hizo zote zimekuwa tu zikirushwa, like everyone ni mweupe kama pamba. But hii problem, I'd be lying to say that the judiciary has become a problem right now, because the judiciary has always been a problem. Let me take you back, na kutake back to the year 2005. This is how many? This is 19 years ago. And kulikuwa na hii headline ilikuwa kwa Nation, na the headline was, oh how I missed ice cream, alafu ikaandikwa Patni. So alafu ikuwa during 16 months of incarceration in the community prison with excursions to Kenyatta National Hospital, the Armed Forces Memorial and the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport Police Station, the thing Kamlesh Patni missed most was ice cream. So let's take March, alafu tubaki tumetoa 16 months. So hiyo itatutake to March 2004, alafu March 2004 tukitoa another nini na tutake back to December 2003. So inamaanisha ufala alikuwa jela since December 2003. And why was he in jail? He was in jail because Patni was accused that in 2003, ile time of course Kibaki aliingia into power, they tried to go after him for the Goldenberg case, because Goldenberg hiyo time ilikuwa like 10 years old, ilikuwa kitu ya 1992. And this time what he tried to do is alitafuta judge fulani anaitwa David Onyancha, alafu akatry kumbribe na 50,000 shillings. Don't forget, this guy had been involved in stealing over 100 billion Kenyan shillings, and he tried to bribe the judge with 50,000 shillings. So I think that's the reason why the judge got offended. Najua judge alikuwa like unanidharau aje, alafu of course hiyo kesi kabaki happen. And one thing we have to give credit ni at least the judge did his part, and the judge was like, you know what, this guy has tried to bribe me and he needs to be arrested. Umsa kabaki amerushwa ndani for stories of bribery. But what happened? Of course this case was thrown out. That's what happens in this country. Like every case that goes. So in now, see, 2005 he was released, and then in February 17th 2010 kulikuwa na Patni off the hook of a bribery case. So he was found innocent. Your story, but usisahau the amount of money that had been stolen during the Goldenberg story ilikuwa 100 billion. The guy who stole 100 billion is now free. How much money do we need to fund the Adani deal? A very inflated number, in a come to 95.68 or 96.58. I think 96.58. That inflated number, pesa ya Patni could have handled that. And don't forget, this was 100 billion in 1992. How much is that worth right now? And all these things we tunazikubali. Now, set tunazikubali, hizi vitu zote will happen due the judiciary ya Kenya just legalizes corruption. So you have the High Court that tries, but as hujuaga, as soon as imetoka High Court, ikienda Court of Appeal, everyone is found innocent. Everyone. Hakuna mtu ashaendaga Court of Appeal Kenya, except of course the poor. But any grand corruption case that goes to the Court of Appeal, ama goes to the Supreme Court, ikiwa ifika hapo, they are found innocent. Majuzi kulikuwa na ubuda fulani sijui anaitwa Devani. And Devani, kesi yake ya 7.6 billion ile ilibiwa, all of a sudden hakuna witness yuko ready to testify. Na sijui witnesses are being intimidated. Even there was, I think, was it Nini? Kiraitu Murungi was supposed to testify, and Kiraitu did not testify. So you have to ask yourself, was Kiraitu threatened? Because ilikuwa kuna intimidation of witnesses. Of course he was not threatened. So what happened? You know what happened. Sindio? Okay. So Patni tukabaki tumelose 100 billion. But since then, he's just been ending up just innocent. In 2013, kulikuwa ni the 5.8 billion case against Patni goes to the Court of Appeal. Saizi Patni vile unajua, he's out here akiendelea kuvuruga wase huko masaiza Zimbabwe. Alafu pia This was February 17th, 2023. Supreme Court saves Patni's appeal over Grand Regency hotel deal. In a major victory for Kamlesh Patni, the Supreme Court has quashed a security of court order that threatened to derail his appeal over the sale of Grand Regency. So Patni and Nini they challenged the dismissal of their suit against the Central Bank of Kenya. Kumbuka umse alibia Kenya, but he still took Kenya to court asking for more money. So if you are ever wondering, you're seated somewhere wondering, why is Kenya a third world country and why is Kenya headed nowhere? You have to know that the problem is the judiciary. Our judiciary is basically useless, and hizi ma antics unaonaga kwa TV hizi waga zinatufurahisha, hizi ni upuzi. At the end of the day, these people don't care about the country. They care about, tuna majudges wamebambikwa hapo, baadaye wanaenda wanalipwa. That's why unachikiata mse kama Ahmed Nasir has that name Juris Pesa, because he knows. And Ahmed Nasir is someone who is one of the most respected lawyers in Kenya. So if he's talking about Juris Pesa, what does that mean? That he knows that there's a lot of bribery that goes into these court cases. So ile time sisi tunafurahia na tunafurahishwa na hizo ujinga, lazima tubaki tumejua we have no country here. And we like comparing ourselves with Asian countries. And this is normally very interesting. But wacha tuangalie China. So China is busy building our roads, giving us loans na vitu kama hizo. This is a headline ya 23rd July 2011. Ilikuwa China executes 14 billionaires in 8 years. Culture News reports. Alafu ikaandika China executed 14 people with assets of at least 1 billion yuan. That's 155 billion Kenyan shillings. 155 million Kenyan shillings would be at least 18 Kenyan shillings. Najua, $155 million that is at least 18 billion Kenyan shillings. Hao ni wase wadosi kushinda mse kama Kirubi hivi. Na hao watu walikuwa executed ni 14. The dead include Yuan Baojing, a former stockbroker, executed by lethal injection 2006 for the murder of a man who had tried to blackmail him. Wacheki. So, hapa Kenya ushaisikia mdosi yote ame get jailed for murder. Kumbuka hata msa anaitwa Delamere got away with murder. Then ikakuwa Wang Zhendong, a chairman of the UNKUT Dongwa Trading Group, was executed in 2008 for a scheme that persuaded investors to buy and breed ants. So billionaires wanakuwa executed. Then tukiangalia place kama Vietnam majuzi, Vietnam ilikuwa in April 12, 2024. Tycoon's death penalty in $12.5 billion fraud case highlights Vietnam's corruption crisis. So Vietnam wana execute. Sisi tunafanya nini? Sisi ni high court inafunga, alafu the higher courts zinabaki zimefind mtu akiwa innocent. And that's the bullshit that we are dealing with. And we just have to be in it. So that's why muchekaga sana when I hear Kenyans talking about that I'm going to sue, I'm going to... Mashindagwa, which country do you live in? Do you know how many people have sued and won the cases, but they'll never get their money? Number one, why? Either hatapata do because the lawyer refuses to pay them. That happens. Ama hatapata do, especially in cases ile you've sued the government, you never get the money. Like let's say sue the police for police brutality. Yes, the court will award you, but will you ever get your payment? No, you'll never get your payment. And that's just the reality of this country. So, will this country ever change? I don't know. It's going to take a very good executive, because don't forget, the executive is the most important arm in Kenya. The other two arms are basically useless. The High Court tries, yes, but the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court is go much higher, wagazina make sure that we get no progress. So unless we get an executive that respects and then empowers this, we are going to be stuck in this cycle, and this cycle of just nonsense happening, and that's going to be it. So in other words is ini Kenya. Now what's my advice to you? If you can, kauneza iba still big, unajua kauneza koza taxpayers money aiba kabisa, lakini usitry kuiba kuku. Kiiba kuku ndio utajua judiciary ya Kenya inawaka. Utatandikwa 30 years yako safi. Kwa hiyo ibe kuku kwa umeshikilia panga, ile itakuwa robbery with violence. Unapatiwa ka 30 ka 40 years yako roho safi. But endo ibe 100 billion Kenyan shillings, alafu watu wakufe kwa mahospitali, watu wakufe juu hakuna nini stima, watu wakufe juu ya utapatikana ukiwa innocent. Najua like if even the watu wanaitwa nini, like the director of public prosecutions akikupeleka mbele ya Supreme Court, utabaki umesikia the Supreme Court imesema this corruption case is nothing but hot air. Ikonene.